This guy kills himself working 3 jobs just to put food on his family's table. But then his life gets flipped upside down when the tower marks him as a challenger and unlocks a totally broken ability. He can summon legendary heroes to fight in his place. Here's the thing, he's a coward who trembles just hearing the word battle. Still, with an army of ridiculously overpowered summons, he starts to farm money, respect, and power inside the tower. He goes from being a total loser to a true monster among humans. If you're into MCs with broken skills and huge glow-ups, then hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and let's dive into this manhwa, 'cause it seriously helps me keep bringing these stories your way. So we start with Bong Joon-hyuk, a 25-year-old dude barely scraping by. He sees himself as a total loser, 0 talent, just a healthy body. That's why he kills himself working 3 part-time jobs: cashier, waiter, and construction helper. And the worst part, even busting his butt, he doesn't have a single cent left. Every penny goes straight to covering his interest debts. Living in a tiny, run-down studio in a noisy, grimy neighborhood, he knows his future's not looking bright. He's trapped in this hellish cycle of work and despair. But hold up, his already messed up life just gets flipped upside down. Out of nowhere, a status window simply pops up right in front of him. He's so startled he chokes on the ramen he's eating, thinking he's hallucinating. The window announces that he, Bong Joon-hyuk, has finally awakened. And this is such a huge mess he can barely process it. In his world, this whole awakened thing is like hitting the lottery, a unique chance to turn your life around. But it's also a guaranteed horrible death. To cash in on this luck, you gotta enter the tower. That's a place where you can die in a million different ways, torn apart by monsters, frozen, burned, poisoned, crushed by traps. Joo-hyuk's always been the timid type, running from any danger, even old buildings he thought might collapse. For a coward like him, the tower seemed like a one-way ticket to hell. Just to make sure it wasn't just exhaustion talking, he risks a test and shouts, "Status window," out loud. To his surprise, the panel appears again. And get this, he's a summoner with abilities for simultaneous, designated, and random summoning. He's completely shocked. He's not dreaming, this shit is real, and now he has the power to summon. Super curious, he tries his first summon, yelling summon, and then random summon, nothing. He feels like an idiot, remembering that awakened abilities only work inside the tower, not here in the real world. Outside of it, the only thing an awakened can do is open their status window. Otherwise, they're a nobody just like anyone else. But then, to Joo-hyuk's absolute dismay, the random summon ability simply activates. What? A tower skill worked in the real world? His head spins, unable to understand what the hell is happening. And what appears isn't a monster or a spirit or a golem. It's a dude, a human being just standing there in his living room. He's in absolute shock, wondering, what even is this madness? The summoned guy, who introduces himself as John Kazak, seems more worried about whether the ramen smell is real and if he can have some. Joo-hyuk, still pretty tense about the whole bizarre situation, eventually gives in. And this Kazak guy practically dives into the ramen like there's no tomorrow. It's the weirdest thing. A summoner who summoned a mooch who only cares about ramen. Joo-hyuk can't process that, of all things, he summoned a starving guy. Joo-hyuk goes back to the status window to better understand this mess. The system explains his summoning is focused on humans and demi-humans, with rarities from rare all the way to special super rare legendary, like a gacha game. But the most important part are 3 principles. The summoned must protect the summoner's life, absolutely obey their orders, and if there's a conflict, life protection comes first. Absolute obedience makes Joo-hyuk's head spin. He's already thinking of 1,000 uses for it. When he checks the catalog to see who this John Kazak is, Joo-hyuk's life gets flipped again. The guy's title is Mad Assassin of the Cruel Assassin Guild, a super rare who is both his guild's greatest asset and biggest headache. Kazak's smile now looks like a promise of terror. Suddenly, a hellish headache hits Joo-hyuk. He's pulled into Kazak's memories, reliving the assassin's past as a spectator. He sees the guy was called Mad because after killing his victims, he'd decapitate the bodies, wrap the heads in ribbons, and send them as gifts. It's a horrifying vision, and Joo-hyuk's stomach churns with the cruelty of the being he just summoned. The memories continue, showing Kazak's end. His downfall came from pure arrogance, underestimating his last target, who was none other than the strongest swordsman in the empire. Ju-hyuk watches the assassin's own death, witnessing the exact moment that damn Kazak met his end. Back in reality, Ju-hyuk's heart almost jumps out of his mouth when Kazak appears right behind him, asking what he was thinking about so much. Our boy's initial panic is massive, but he clings to the system's principles. Kazak must obey. He needs to control this psychopath, even if he's scared to death. Gathering courage, Ju-hyuk orders Kazak to wash the ramen pot, clean the table and the floor. And get this, the guy obeys instantly, without questioning. Ju-hyuk is shocked, a mix of surprise and tense relief. He calls the summoned Mr. Kazak, and the assassin reiterates his complete submission. To really test this obedience, Ju-hyuk throws out an absurd order. He tells Mr. Kazak to bark like a dog. For a second, the apartment goes dead silent, Ju-hyuk sweating bullets, thinking he went too far with a guy who was so proud in the past. But to his total surprise, the assassin starts barking like an excited puppy. It's the ultimate proof. The guy's obedience is absolute, and Ju-hyuk is now certain of his power over him. The piece lasts barely seconds, like literally seconds. A pounding on the door, accompanied by shouts calling Ju-hyuk's name. He freezes, remembering a tragedy he'd forgotten. Today's the day to pay interest to the loan sharks. In complete despair, he tells Kazak to hide, no matter what. Kazak, with a sinister smile and daggers in hand, offers to rip the heads off those bastards banging on the door. Ju-hyuk goes into full panic, denying everything and shoving the assassin into the bathroom. He orders him to stay quiet, not move a muscle, not utter a peep. Kazak, confused, asks if he can at least breathe. Ju-hyuk, rolling his eyes nervously, replies, "Yes, of course, but that's it." With the psycho locked in the bathroom, Ju-hyuk finally opens the door for the loan shark. The guy, with a harsh face, walks in with cruel sarcasm. He scoffs, asking if Ju-hyuk was sick, since the interest hadn't landed in their account. Our protagonist apologizes frantically, saying he forgot but that he's already sent the money. The humiliation is palpable, but he has to swallow it to survive. To add more terror, the loan shark lays it out. If things get tight, Ju-hyuk can sell an organ on the black market, like a kidney, and his problems will vanish. And it gets worse when the goons in the hallway start taunting. They comment that they remember Ju-hyuk's younger brother and that young people's organs are worth a lot more. Hatred boils in Ju-hyuk, but he's forced to bow down and say he'd never dare anything against them. As soon as the debt collectors leave, laughing at his face, Ju-hyuk locks the door and calls Kazak. The psycho assassin comes out of the bathroom, calm, reporting that he obeyed everything. Ju-hyuk sighs, exhausted. An insane day, double shift, awakened, summoned an assassin, and still dealt with loan sharks. He thinks about the debt and the tower, but knows a coward like him would never survive in there to make money. Kazak breaks the silence and asks what the next step is. Ju-hyuk replies he doesn't know and, surprisingly, asks what the summoned wants to do. He even offers to desummon him if that's the case. But the assassin, for a change, asks to watch TV since it's been a long time since he last did. Ju-hyuk agrees, telling him to make himself at home. And so, the bloodthirsty psychopath flops onto the couch to watch a K-drama, while our exhausted protagonist passes out on the couch beside him. Before falling completely asleep, Ju-hyuk thinks that maybe having Kazak around isn't so bad after all. After so long alone, killing himself working, his presence, bizarre as it was even a certain comfort. The next day, Ju-hyuk wakes up early and realizes Mr. Kazak isn't there anymore. He was desummoned, remembering there was a time limit for manifestation. He shakes his head, deciding he'll put this whole, awakened, madness aside and get ready for another day of work. But wait, the TV is on GBC News, and the anchor is reporting a brutal crime. At the Smile Cash office, an illegal loan agency in the Jongno district. The name paralyses Ju-hyuk. The report continues, revealing that 3 victims were found decapitated, and the most shocking detail, the heads were decorated with red ribbons like gifts. Ju-hyuk's blood runs cold. He goes into absolute despair, screaming, "Comforting my ass." He didn't summon a roommate. He summoned a psycho, lunatic, utterly bloodthirsty assassin. The whole city is buzzing about one thing: the brutal Smile Cash murders. Headlines are screaming terror. 3 heads, chopped off, wrapped like macabre gifts, complete with little red bows. Our guy, Bong Joo-hyuk, sees it on TV and instantly gets how deep the trouble is. He knows, without a shadow of a doubt, that the damn Kazak was behind this massacre. And now he's, like, totally screwed. Bong Joo-hyuk is working the supermarket register, and his mind is racing a mile a minute. The trauma is so bad that instead of products, he sees the loan sharks' heads rolling on the conveyor belt, red bows where price tags should be. In total panic, he hallucinates his own severed head asking him why he isn't scanning the groceries. The freakout is real. He screams in despair, scaring the customer who just wanted to buy her stuff. He tries to play it off, apologizes for the outburst, but the damage is already done. By the end of the day, Bong realizes he's in no psychological state to keep working. He's so shaken by the deaths that he decides to take time off from all 3 of his jobs. Walking home, surrounded by a crowd of happy couples, he wonders, is it his fault? And more importantly, what the hell is he going to do with the weight of these 3 deaths on his shoulders anyway? To try and make sense of the mess he's gotten into, he checks the system catalog again and revisits John Kazak's description. And there it was, in bold letters, exactly what he suspected: crazy murderer. Bong concludes that the guy is indeed a psychopath, but he tries to comfort himself by thinking that, as his summoner, Kazak would never hurt him. Still, the whole situation is way too scary. Gathering all the courage he has left, Bong takes a deep breath and activates designated summon, calling Kazak back. Right then, a system window pops up, asking for a 0 to 5-star satisfaction rating for the character's previous use. Bong finally understands why that star rating section existed on Kazak's status. He thinks about giving just 1 star. After all, the guy turned his life into a living hell, even if he did solve the lone shark problem. But Bong's finger hesitates. He can't bring himself to give the minimum rating, feeling like he'd be too heartless, completely ignoring the fact that the guy just decapitated 3 people. Ultimately, Bong's bizarre empathy wins out, and he decides to give Kazak 3 stars. He remembers how his mom worked with customer reviews and how soul-crushing low ratings were. What a complete coward, man. But this guy is gonna evolve, you can bet on it. As soon as the rating is confirmed, John Kazak appears, all smiles and giving a friendly little wave to his master. Super hyped, the assassin thanks him for the 3 stars and swears he'll work even harder to get all 5. Bong just stares at him, baffled by so much innocence and joy coming from a maniac who just dumped 3 bodies. Straight up, he gets real, asking if Kazak was the one who killed the lone sharks. And the guy, with the utmost nonchalance, confirms everything. He proudly says he took care of the problem last night, leaving Bong even more terrified by the assassin's coldness. Suddenly, Bong feels a wave of nausea, his heart pounding a million miles an hour. He tries to calm down, remembering the golden rule: Kazak can't hurt him, or at least, that's what he hopes. He then asks how Kazak found out where the gang's office was. The assassin explains that while he was hidden, he planted a tracker on them. Bong deduces it was a stealth ability from Kazak's past, but questions why he went so far. Kazak responds, simple as that. They threatened the master's life, and it's always wiser to eliminate threats proactively. Bong immediately retorts, saying he never ordered any of that. Kazak then brings up the 3rd clause of the 3 summoning principles. Obedience to the master is absolute, but an order to stand down can be ignored if the summoner is in imminent danger. To test this twisted logic, Bong asks, so, if I ordered you to kill me, would you disobey? The assassin smiles and confirms, yes, that's absolutely correct. Now that's when our guy feels the true weight of the problem. The big problem, as Bong points out, is that there was no real, immediate death threat from the lone sharks. He questions if those deaths weren't just a decision based on Kazak's twisted judgment, and the assassin agrees. He explains that the 3rd clause can be interpreted in many ways. From his perspective, those men were leeches who would inevitably kill Bong. So, eliminating them preemptively was a perfectly reasonable judgment. Bong can't take it anymore and explodes. How is that reasonable? That's psychopathic stuff. After a few seconds of silence, he shrugs, apologizing for yelling, completely scared. Kazak waves his hands, saying it's fine and he understands perfectly. Head down, Bong tries to explain why that line of reasoning is dangerous. He asks Kazak to imagine this: they're walking on a crowded street. Bong accidentally bumps into a big, tough guy. The guy, annoyed, shouts something like, "You wanna die, idiot. I'm gonna gouge out your eyes." Obviously, in the real world, that's just an empty threat, but depending on Kazak's free interpretation, this stressed-out guy would end up with a little red bow tied around his decapitated neck the next day. If Kazak starts handing out bows for every offense, soon the whole world will be gift-wrapped. Yikes. Realizing the mess he made and the anxiety he caused his master, Kazak immediately kneels, taking the blame. Bong is startled by the dramatic bow, but he takes the cue to get serious. He tells Kazak to listen carefully. "Murdering people doesn't solve problems. In fact, it's only going to get me into huge trouble." The psychopath tries to argue that he was stealthy and no one would ever know, but Bong cuts him off, asking if he's going to stop this madness or not. Kazak responds with terrifying sincerity that he cannot promise that. Our protagonist loses it and starts yelling again. He orders the assassin to promise, in no uncertain terms, unless there is literally a knife to his throat, Kazak is strictly forbidden from killing people based on mere suspicion. Seeing the summoner's fury and despair, Kazak gets serious, nods his head, and says, "Yes, sir, I will use my best judgment." With the weight of carrying indirect blame for 3 deaths on his shoulders, Bong sighs deeply, says it's okay, and ends the lecture. Completely changing the subject, Kazak asks an unexpected question. He wants to know if the summoner has ever considered climbing the tower. This surprises Bong a lot because he had been thinking about exactly that. He knows that exploring the tower is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get rich, but to be honest, he's terrified of that place. It's extremely dangerous, and there's a huge chance he could get disemboweled by a monster. Curious, Bong asks if in the assassin's past there were other summoners who used similar abilities. Kazak confirms yes, there were several, and all of them were incredibly strong and brave warriors. Hearing this, Bong feels an overwhelming shame. He thinks about how other awakened use their abilities to save the world or fight head-on, while he doesn't even have the courage to risk a scratch. Reading Bong's body language, Kazak starts to say, "And you truly are." But the protagonist interrupts him, finishing the sentence, "I know, I'm a pathetic coward." But to Bong's complete surprise, Kazak totally disagrees. The assassin says he's the greatest summoner of all time, no doubt about it, the best he's ever seen. Kazak even grabs the guy's shoulders, enthusiastically saying that a summoner's greatest virtue isn't bravery, but putting safety first. Bong is a bit confused and asks if he's serious. Kazak explains that courage is poison for this class. A summoner who throws themselves onto the front lines is dead weight who can die at any moment, and the rule is clear. If the master dies, the summon disappears with them. Bong finally understands the strategy, realizing Kazak doesn't want him to make any effort on the front lines, telling him to relax. The psychopath will handle all the dirty work. The protagonist's job is just to stay hidden, well protected, to live a very, very long life. This guarantee totally surprises our scaredy cat summoner. The next morning, as the sun rises, Bong has deep dark circles under his eyes. He didn't sleep well, too busy tossing and turning in bed, caught in the dilemma of whether or not to climb the tower. He reflects on his life. Who am I to try and climb that damn tower? In his head, he should just thank the heavens that his debt disappeared, along with those debt collectors, and move on. The plan is to get a normal, safe job and live a quiet life. If he just works harder, everything will sort itself out eventually. But at that exact moment, his phone rings. It's his dad. Worried and curious, Bong answers and immediately asks if his hip rehab is going well. But during the call, his dad reveals that things aren't easy and he needs to be transferred to a bigger, more expensive hospital. To make matters worse, he drops a bombshell. Bong's mom got fired from her job. His dad tries to soften the blow, telling him not to worry, saying he only called because they missed him, having not heard from their son in a long time. Feeling a lump in his throat, Bong says he'll make time to visit them soon, that they'll eat together, and asks his dad not to overdo it. As soon as he hangs up, a switch flips in his head. All that lack of courage and the safe, quiet life talk vanish in the blink of an eye. Cut to the next scene, and we see Bong completely geared up to climb the dreaded tower. But don't think he's wearing silver armor, nope. He's wearing a full, ultra-reinforced construction safety engineer's uniform, complete with a helmet and a reflective vest. His plan is simple. He'll just go into the first floor, take a super quick peek, and then head straight back home. If it gets too dangerous, he'll turn around and bolt immediately. Since he had taken the day off from all 3 jobs anyway, it was the perfect time. But before setting foot in the tower, he needed to call his bodyguard. Only, a hesitation kicks in. He starts thinking he doesn't want to bring that bloodthirsty psychopath Kazak with him. He wonders if it wouldn't be possible to use random summon to call a different person. Who knows, if he gets lucky with the gacha, maybe he'll pull a legendary character who can do the job, but without the head-chopping habit. But to his utter dismay, the system announces that random summon is not available. The skill's cooldown is a ridiculous 30 days. In short, he can only roll the dice for a new character once a month. With no other options, he just has to make do with what he's got. He activates the skill and summons John Kazak. A bit embarrassed, Bong hopes the assassin can't guess that he tried to switch him out. Playing it cool, he welcomes Kazak and announces with a trembling voice the big decision: they're going into the tower. Kazak breaks into a huge, excited smile and praises him. "You truly are brave, master." But right after, the psychopath's face drops and he backs off. "No, wait, I take that back. You absolutely should not be brave, or your life will end up going down the drain again." Bong, sweating cold, asks him not to worry, repeating that they're just going to check out the first floor and bail. Kazak nods in approval, saying it's a very wise decision. Then, he points to the safety and construction gear the guy is wearing and says he can throw all that rudimentary junk in the trash. Kazak swears that as soon as they cross the portal, he will be his absolute guide. He guarantees that the master will enter in total safety, be 100% comfortable, and won't need to lift a single finger. Kazak was born to do all the heavy lifting. Trusting his maniac bodyguard's word, Bong takes a deep breath and presses the system button to enter the tower. He asks if Kazak is ready, and the assassin confirms, with blood in his eyes. Just like that, the two are transported directly to the first floor of the Korean tower. Only, since our scaredy cat isn't at all used to this bizarre teleportation sensation, he appears in the tower scenario the only way he knows how, screaming at the top of his lungs and crying in terror. Whoa, the portal opens, and a cold panic shoots down Bong Joo-hyuk's spine as he's literally sucked inside. For the first time ever, he's crossing into one of the damn black towers. He's only there because of his family's insane debt and the promise of easy money, but he's so scared, he just wants to vanish. As soon as the transfer finishes, intense nausea hits him hard, dropping the guy on the first floor. It's a desert stretching as far as the eye can see. Kazak, ever stoic, is right there, assuring his master would soon get used to the feeling. Like it's super normal after almost puking your guts out. He barely has time to compose himself when the system pings. It tells him his physical abilities have leveled up, and combat characteristics are now unlocked. Joo-hyuk feels like a real player. I mean, it finally sinks in that he's now part of this chaotic tower world. The first floor mission is clear. Take out 5 hard-skinned, fat larvae in a few hours. Joo-hyuk, the internet expert, remembers the reports. These things are basically training dummies. Slow, weak attacks, but their skin is like armor. And folks usually took 10 minutes to kill just one. He thinks, if they can do it, so can I, right? All pumped up, our hero announces he's taking on the first larva solo. But Kazak, the psychopathic assassin who actually cares about him, asks if he really needs to do the dirty work. And that's when Joo-hyuk realizes his blunder. He forgot to bring a weapon. He tries to ask Kazak for a little dagger, but before he can, the larva, which he swore was a slug, stands up and stares at him like he's a snack. Joo-hyuk loses his cool instantly and screams for help. Without missing a beat, Kazak appears next to the larva, telling his master to step back and just enjoy the show. He starts throwing his daggers with insane precision, pinning the monsters like they're just pin cushions. Then things really get wild. Kazak activates his blade explosion skill, and the larvae just blow up into pieces like they never even existed. The guy even finishes with a stylish pose. Joo-hyuk is stunned, totally amazed. Damn, Kazak was way stronger than he ever imagined, clearing the area in the blink of an eye. Right then, the system chimes. First mission complete, level up, and a few grams of magic stone. But the big deal is the S+ rating and an exclusive platinum emblem. Our protagonist can barely believe it, already thinking the tower is a piece of cake and he'll get rich super fast. What Bong Joo-hyuk, this real man he thinks he is, had no idea about is that his S Plus achievement wasn't just for him, you know? That pop-up warning appeared as a global, real-time announcement for all players in South Korea, indicating something super weird and synchronized was going on. Back home, teleported, Ju-hyuk checks his phone's clock and gets a shock. The whole fight only took a few minutes. Kazak congratulates him on his excellent work, and our protagonist, ever modest, says he didn't do anything. But the assassin replies with frightening enthusiasm, "Exactly, and you are excellent at doing nothing, master." Ju-hyuk thinks about how other players must come back from the tower exhausted, while for him, it was easy as pie. In his inventory, he examines the magic stone crystals, a super valuable resource that's already worth a fortune, even with the price being lower in recent years. The Black Towers have been a thing for a long time, and trading these stones is super common. But then he looks at the platinum emblem and nothing. He's never heard of it. Even without knowing what the emblem was, the math doesn't lie. He made bank in less than 10 minutes. Our protagonist is beaming, he can barely believe his luck. Meanwhile, Kazak calmly announces he's going to sit down and watch his favorite drama. Like, work's done, right? To celebrate his glorious day, Ju-hyuk decides to order a delivery feast. Kazak asks if there's spicy pig's trotters, but Ju-hyuk ordered the traditional version. He'd noticed the psychopathic assassin get sick from spicy food. But then Kazak starts to sweat, smelling the pungent spices in the meal. Ju-hyuk instantly gets it. The damn assassin is a total wimp when it comes to spice. Even so, Kazak devours everything, super grateful. During the meal, Ju-hyuk asks if Kazak's formal way of speaking is natural. The assassin seems unsure, but figures it's a habit from his time serving his previous summoner. Ju-hyuk laughs like, the guy inherited his ex-boss's quirks. Kazak even offers to change, but our protagonist refuses, confessing that the more he listens, the funnier it gets. They both crack up, and Ju-hyuk starts getting used to the idea of having a cold-blooded assassin under his roof. He realizes he's not even that dangerous, and the tower isn't such a big scary monster after all. Climbing the floors, turns out, seems like a pretty viable plan. The next morning, super motivated, Ju-hyuk draws a diagram titled, "A Real Man's Daily Routine." He decides to quit the heavy manual labor gigs. His new routine is meticulously divided. Sleep most of the day, work as a convenience store cashier in the afternoon, be a waiter at night, and then, in the early morning, raid the tower. Following the schedule, he summons Kazak again. The assassin appears, profusely thanking him for the 5-star rating in the system. Ju-hyuk, pleased, says he'd give 10 and asks if this satisfaction rating is really that important. Kazak explains yes, the better the score, the more exclusive benefits he gets. Like, he could even get a rank promotion, and his chances of being summoned increase drastically. After the brief chat, they both head straight to the tower's second floor. The mission now is to take out fat larvae, but these ones are super agile, which makes Ju-hyuk tense. He asks what he himself should do in the battle. Kazak laughs like, "Do what, master? You don't have to worry about a thing." He assures the guy can just stand there enjoying the view, because he'll handle everything in minutes and get Ju-hyuk home safe. Excited about the royal treatment, Ju-hyuk quickly adds, "Can we order fried chicken and beer when we get back today?" Kazak replies with a resounding yes, of course. And like a missile, Kazak charges at the larvae, slicing and crushing them all without mercy. Our boy watches the bloodbath from afar, once again amazed, realizing Kazak's strength is absolutely insane. And just like that, in a matter of minutes, the second floor mission is a success. The reward drops into his account. A few more grams of magic stone, and to Ju-hyuk's surprise, another S+ notice with another platinum emblem. He's shocked. Another S+ in a row? He starts to question if progression should really be this easy, because his level gain is way too fast. He thinks he could probably clear the tower even during his convenience store breaks at this rate. Without losing momentum, they head straight to the third floor, where Kazak annihilates the ice larvae in minutes, yielding another S+. On the fourth floor, same thing. On the fifth floor, exactly the same thing. But then, upon completing the fifth stage, our boy receives a shocking system alert. Because he just collected 5 perfect platinum emblems, he unlocked a hidden special privilege for accumulating S+ ratings. Ju-hyuk's eyes widen, curious about what absurd privilege this could be. The window flashes in front of him, announcing, "Awakened Characteristic Enhancement." Thanks to this insane bonus, the master's simultaneous summon limit has been expanded. Long story short. Now, besides that psychopath Kazak wiping the floor with enemies, he'll be able to spin the wheel and summon another ally to the party. Jahyuk is hyped about the idea of dual summons. He's thinking about the massive advantage it would give him. I mean, Kazak alone breaks all records, so imagine with two. But then, he remembers the tiny detail. The summon system has a full 30-day cooldown. Until then, he's stuck with Kazak and just needs to tough it out. Meanwhile, in Seoul, at the Awakened Management Agency, everyone is freaking out. Team leader Jeon Gwangil sighs, telling Section Chief Lee Min-ah that the Black Tower's global notifications just won't stop. No sooner does he finish than she pops up out of nowhere, startling him, and confirms that notification just went off again. Min-ah tells Gwangil about another S++ rank achievement, this time on the tower's 6th floor. The team leader realizes that with so many S++ in a row, from the 1st to the 6th floor, it can't be a coincidence. It's clearly the same person, an unprecedented prodigy. He figures if this keeps up, the international community will go wild, and Korea will have to scramble to keep this talent. Director Park Kyung-soo, a bald, authoritative man, slams the table. He reminds them of the situation's gravity. He explains Korea's biggest record so far was just rank A, so an S++ broadcast globally is a serious problem. The director warns about players being bribed or even kidnapped by other countries. He orders them to find this guy immediately, before Korea loses this rare gem. 2 days fly by. Jahyuk is in his tiny studio, asking Kazak if today's challenge is the 8th floor. And there's the darn lethal assassin, ironically doing the dishes, confirming it is. Jahyuk thinks the 10th floor is the limit for beginners, the point where the tower stops going easy. So they head to the 8th floor. The mission, take down the red thorn frog warriors. One of these bizarre, leather-clad creatures charges furiously, but Kazak, with his usual agility, destroys it without breaking a sweat. Another S++ rank achievement secured, giving Jahyuk more magic stone, an exclusive healing potion, and of course, another platinum emblem. Kazak walks up to Jahyuk, all proud, saying he did an excellent job. Jahyuk, a bit awkward, admits he did nothing, but thanks him anyway. The assassin insists that just having the courage to enter the tower is enough. Jahyuk smiles, happy to have such an efficient bodyguard, but Kazak warns him not to drop his guard. From the second half of the floors, things are gonna get really tough. Jahyuk agrees and decides to give Kazak a gift for his effort. He pulls out his wallet and talks about all the cool stuff in the real world, like restaurants and parks. He suggests Kazak go out for a bit before his summon time ends, but with a condition: no trouble, no killing anyone. But Kazak refuses, saying he could never leave Summoner Bong's side. He'd rather stay home and watch TV, which shows how loyal the guy is. Jahyuk understands, suggests ordering fried chicken, and the psychopath gets super excited about the idea. While the assassin watches his K-dramas, munching on chicken, Jahyuk takes the chance to check his inventory. He decides to give the healing potion to Kazak, since he's the one really on the front lines. The big question now is what to do with all the magic stones, which are already piling up in his inventory, weighing kilos. The guy realizes he's sitting on a small fortune and needs to figure out how to turn these stones into cold hard cash. Time flies, and finally it's the day to face the dreaded 10th floor. Jahyuk gets ready, reflecting that he started the tower just to test it out, but ended up climbing 1 floor a day. He remembers yesterday, on the 9th floor, the jungle carnivorous flower was super easy, for Kazak of course. For him, clearing stages became routine, and the S++ reward is just a bonus. It's even relaxing, he thinks, forgetting that the crazy assassin decapitated loan sharks for him just days ago. Without any fear, Jahyuk summons Kazak again. The system announces John Kazak's satisfaction rate has hit the max 5 stars. As a bonus, the assassin's stay time in the real world is extended by another hour. Kazak is beaming, promising to serve his master for even longer. With renewed spirits, the two enter the 10th floor. Jaehyuk feels something different, an intense recalibration of his physical abilities. He senses a mysterious strength and mana overflowing in his gut, wondering if he's finally awakened as an untamed wild horse, a total badass. Taken by this wave of power, he grabs Kazak by the shoulders and proudly declares, "From now on, I'm gonna fight and help you too." Kazak totally freaks out, saying it's impossible and the master shouldn't risk himself at all. He swears if Jaehyuk gets a single scratch, he'll bash his own head on the ground in shame. Jaehyuk, puffing out his chest, tells him to relax, reaffirming he's a wild horse. Kazak insists verbal encouragement is more than enough, but Jaehyuk puts his foot down. This time, they'll fight together. What he didn't expect was a monstrous eye watching him from the shadows. It wasn't just any creature, but a titanic mantis with a leg several meters long. Faced with that monstrosity, professional coward Jaehyuk freezes and whispers, terrified, "How do other players even defeat something this massive?" Losing all his heroic swagger and without an ounce of shame, he turns to the assassin and drops this gem. "You know, Kazak, sending 2 people to squash a mere bug offends my pride. You can handle this ugly thing alone. I'll send you strength from back here." Kazak, confused, replies that it doesn't offend anyone's pride, but Jaehyuk insists it totally does. The gigantic mantis attacks relentlessly, but Kazak, with surreal agility, dodges its blows, dashes across the creature's legs, and activates his magic eyes. In a blink, using his sword skills, he slices the titanic monster into tiny pieces. And just like that, the 10th floor is conquered. Jaehyuk's level goes up, he gains more kilos of magic stone, and gets another S++ achievement with another platinum emblem. Kazak strikes an awesome pose, announcing the mission is complete and they're ready for the 11th floor. Jaehyuk, checking his inventory, notices his magic stones are already in the double digits. And more importantly, he just completed another cycle of 5 platinum emblems. This means he's about to unlock a new special privilege, and the guy is totally stoked about it. Back in his tiny home, the system reveals the prize, the ability to permanently copy a skill from his summoned being. Kazak's list appears on screen, full of powerful attacks like Blade Explosion and Venom Dagger. Jaehyuk is amazed, but before he can choose a combat skill, Kazak points at the screen and says, with full conviction, that his master should pick Shadow Step. Jaehyuk asks why Shadow Step, wanting to know if it's a powerful attack. Kazak answers flat out, "It's extremely convenient for escaping. If anything goes wrong, you can be quick and discreet and disappear from the scene as fast as possible." Our hero's face falls, offended like, "Who does this guy think I am? Do I look like someone who'd run away just to save my own skin?" Outraged by Kazak's audacity, Jaehyuk clicks and acquires Shadow Step without a second thought. I mean, obviously he wants the best possible escape method, right? Kazak claps, praising the wise decision. Trying to salvage some dignity, the protagonist clears his throat and says, "As they say, footwork is the soul of any fight." Then he decides to go outside and test the skill. The problem is, skills outside the tower don't work properly. His Shadow Step just turns into slightly nimbler footwork for short distances. He comes home panting and frustrated, complaining, "If the system lets summons work in the real world, it should let skills work 100% too. There's no consistency." Kazak, not understanding a thing, just smiles and agrees. "I have no idea what you're talking about, but you're absolutely right, Summoner." Another day dawns on the tower climbing routine. Now, we see our guy incredibly nervous on the phone. The voice on the other end identifies itself as the Awakened Management Agency's call center. Jaehyuk introduces himself, saying he recently awakened. The agent congratulates him and, noticing his nervousness, asks if government agents could visit his residence to help with registration. He agrees, gives his address, and ends the call, probably the bravest decision of his early 20s. Meanwhile, somewhere else, we see Section Chief Lee Mina and Team Leader Jung Gwangil driving towards Jaehyuk's address. Jung asks about an awakened evaluation in Daegu, and Lee sighs, saying it wasn't the mysterious S++ record holder. They wonder if the real prodigy will finally show up this time. Jung reaffirms they need to go as fast as possible. If it's the person they're looking for, the order is clear. Recruit him for the elite team, even if they have to offer the agency's top benefits. In his tiny studio apartment, Jaehyuk wipes everything down, sweating nervously, waiting for his visitors. Someone knocks, announcing themselves from the agency. As soon as Jahyuk opens the door, he greets them, apologizes for the cramped space, and invites them in. Jung introduces himself as the team leader and presents Section Chief Lee Mina, pointing out that she's also an awakened player. Jung tells Jahyuk to feel free to ask questions, but right at that moment, Lee Mina steps forward, ignores the formalities, and stares Jahyuk straight in the eye. With an intensely serious expression, she drops the bombshell. "It's you, isn't it? The mysterious awakened with the S++ records." The silence in the small room is deafening, and the tension cuts through the air. Agent Lee wastes no time. She confronts Bong Joo-hyuk, knives out, and goes straight for it. "You're the mysterious S++ awakened one, aren't you?" He freezes, totally startled, like, how the heck did she figure that out so fast? A million questions race through his mind. Does the agency have some secret detector for hidden players, or is she just bluffing to see if it sticks? His plan? Deny everything till the very end, no matter what. Man, Bong Joo-hyuk's excuse is so robotic it'd make for an epic slapstick comedy. He tries to play dumb, forcing an awkward chuckle like, an S++ awakened. How crazy. But definitely not me, haha. Agent Lee, who isn't stupid at all, immediately sees he's lying through his teeth. But Leader Jung, seeing his subordinate's blunder, gives her a light tap on the back of the head, which Lee, dodges like a ninja and scolds her for intimidating the poor guy. He apologizes for her behavior. Joo-hyuk, relieved they have no proof, accepts it and realizes it was just a test all along. The agents then start the standard orientation with an institutional video. It kicks off with a cute little mascot introducing herself as Taebae, the official mascot of Korea's Black Tower. Bong Joo-hyuk with that, huh? Look, gets super confused. I mean, it's called the Black Tower, and this thing has a mascot that looks like it's from a kid's cartoon. The mascot then starts explaining the basics. Black towers are sinister structures that appeared out of nowhere years ago. No one could approach them until the first players showed up. The video explains the tower works like a video game, with floors to be cleared. Players gain superhuman powers inside, and the rewards boost the global economy. But oh boy, the sinister part quickly appears. If a floor isn't conquered in 6 months, the tower collapses and devastates the entire region. That's exactly how Mumbai, the entire city, vanished from the map 3 years ago. So that's the gamble, folks. Keep climbing or face annihilation. Korea, thankfully, only has one tower and is doing well, with the current record on the 44th floor, right behind the United States. The video then makes a dramatic call to action. You, newly awakened, are humanity's next hope. Register and become a hero. Bong Joo-hyuk can only think about how corporate and dull that little PR show is. Time for the truth. Leader Jung asks if Bong Joo-hyuk has actually awakened. Our protagonist confirms, saying he's already entered the tower and even cleared a few floors. He proves it with some magic stones on the table. Then Jung asks, "How many floors did you manage to clear?" Joo-hyuk, totally chill, just drops, "Oh, the 10th floor." Whoa, both agents swallow hard right then. The 10th floor was exactly where the mysterious S++ had reached the day before. The tension builds. Bong Joo-hyuk is screwed. Agent Lee, getting suspicious again, asks if he saw the recent global announcement. Bong Joo-hyuk breaks into a cold sweat. In his head, the goal is clear: act natural, show nothing. Then he switches back to robot mode and blinks out. "Oh, the S++ record? Yes, I saw it. What an amazing person that must be, right?" Leader Jung sighs, trying to calm him down. But internally, his antennas are already up. Is this guy just nervous around us, or is there more to it? Suspicious, darn it, very suspicious. To not waste any more time, Lee starts explaining the contract details. The agency divides players into 2 groups, the elite raid team and the general raid group. The general group is more like freelancers, for those who want to do odd jobs and clear lower floors. But the elite, man, that's for players who get serious with the government, tackling the toughest floors in exchange for big bucks, top-notch gear, and endless perks. Bong Joo-hyuk already does the math. If these guys find out I'm the S++, my life will turn into a living hell, with press and cameras everywhere. No way, I hate being the center of attention. Leader Jung then dangles the bait, offering Bong Joo-hyuk the chance to apply for the elite team. All he has to do is use a government camera to record his skill test. But to the agent's surprise, Joo-hyuk interrupts him and states he'd rather stay in the general raid group. Jung's eyes widen. not understanding the guy's decision. Bong Joo-hyuk, head down and putting on an Oscar-worthy show of nervousness, mumbles that the general category is just fine for him. The leader insists, reminding him that the elite's benefits, money, and prestige are infinitely better. But Joo-hyuk sticks to his little coward act. "To be honest, sir, I'm not that talented. And that tower is way too scary, you know? For me, just grabbing the basics on the first few floors is enough." Young begs him to think it over, but Joo-hyuk is unyielding. He's already made up his mind. Watching the pathetic scene, Agent Lee gets totally disheartened. She thinks, so it was another false lead. Many players prefer to farm mid-level floors for easy money and not risk it, but this guy is pathetic. He really doesn't have the guts of an elite. Leader Young, defeated, apologizes for his persistence and says he'll respect the young man's choice, while Joo-hyuk sighs in relief. But Young makes one last request. To successfully finalize the registration, the procedure requires the hunter to enter the tower and do a quick run in front of them. It's just for the system to validate the day's awakening. Bong Joo-hyuk agrees to do it, but warns it might take a few hours since he, supposedly, plays defensively and cautiously. Lee Min-ha, thinking he's a coward who will fail soon, says it's no problem. He can take all the time he needs, and they'll wait. Joo-hyuk, donning his makeshift gear, instructs them about the TV and fridge. Soon, he's teleported into the tower, with his plan to throw the agents off starting to roll. As soon as Bong Joo-hyuk is gone, Leader Young turns to Agent Lee and asks, "So, what's your final assessment of the kid?" Lee crosses her arms and declares, convinced, "It's hard to judge raw talent without seeing someone fight, but psychologically, he's too shy and withdrawn. Every gesture screams cowardice. He'll probably give up before even trying to kill something, especially on the 11th floor." Agent Lee continues, explaining that the 11th floor is a real centipede tunnel, a psychological test for newbies. She's faced the stage herself and comments, "It's not combat hard, but the environment is horrifying. You're forced to slice and smash 100 of those giant, disgusting things to pass." She's sure Joo-hyuk will just cower in the dark and give up. Young laughs and gets ready to call the director, letting him know another prodigy was just a false alarm. But inside the tower, reality was quite different. Bong Joo-hyuk summons his faithful assassin, and John Kazak appears, all smiles, saying it's an immense pleasure to work with him again. The 11th floor mission flashes on screen: kill 100 tunnel-tail centipedes within the time limit. Failure results in death or surrender. Bong Joo-hyuk looks at that infested darkness and already feels sick. Out of all the monsters, it had to be giant centipedes, and 100 of them. Kazak already draws his blades, promising to clean up the mess in 10 minutes or less, but the protagonist raises his hand and stops him dead. "No way, Kazak, today you go slow, take it easy, and I forbid you from getting an S++ rank. Bring me any crap score, just not an S++. Kazak, confused, asks why. Joo-hyuk explains he needs to play extremely safely to avoid being exposed. The assassin understands and nods. "Understood, my lord. Your wish is my command." Walk begins. At the first attacking centipede, Kazak lunges forward. The problem is, used to destroying everything in seconds, he defeats it almost instantly. Bong Joo-hyuk realizes the assassin's speed, even when he tries to hold back, is just too fast. "Slower, Kazak, don't kill it right away. Play with them, jump over them, just stall," orders the master. Kazak obeys, starting to jump from one centipede to another, not delivering lethal blows, just playing hide-and-seek in the dark. Joo-hyuk smiles, satisfied. "Yes, perfect pace. We'll just barely make it under the time limit this way." But in this moment of distraction, the ground trembles beneath Bong Joo-hyuk's feet. When he looks up, he's face to face with titanic centipedes hanging from the cave's ceiling, right above him. Terrified, he screams for Kazak and tries to run, but the cave is infested. Several of those horrid, cursed bugs start surrounding him, drooling and staring at him like he's a platter full of fresh snacks. Joo-hyuk's body locks up in sheer terror. He can barely breathe. But suddenly, from the other side of the cave, Kazak spots the ambush. With his eyes glowing red, the assassin explodes in fury. He screams for Summoner Bong to duck and, in a bloody frenzy, obliterates hundreds of centipedes in a single second, slicing the bugs and saving the boy. Kazak screams, furious, "These disgusting worms dared to try and touch my master." Bong Joo-hyuk realizes what just happened. The assassin went into berserker mode, and the plan for a slow clear went right down the drain. Juhyuk tries to intervene, desperate, and shouts with all his might, "Kazak, stop right now, go slower, that's an order." But Kazak, drenched in insect blood, yells back, eyes red with pure fury, "I cannot obey, master. Your safety comes first." That is the first and most absolute clause of the summoning rules. The protagonist's eyes widen, realizing the disaster. If Kazak swept the entire floor with maximum force like that, the result would be another unbeatable record, and his secret would be out in the open. And just like that, after only 10 minutes of pure massacre, the system announces the 11th floor was successfully conquered with a full clear. Bong Joon-hyuk grumbles, "This is so messed up." Back in the real world, in the small studio apartment, Chief Lee and Leader Jung were patiently waiting. Lee checks her watch and comments like, 10 minutes have passed already. He must be running out of there and giving up any second now. But at that exact second, they read the latest global announcement in huge, bold letters. The 11th floor of the Black Tower has been conquered with an S++ rank. Bong Joon-hyuk's room door blinks and the player is teleported back to the living room floor, panting, right at the moment of the revelation. Lee looks up from her phone and stares at him, an expression of absolute shock on her face. Jung, completely lost, stutters, "What just happened here?" Lee, her voice trembling, connects the dots. Player Bong exited the tower. And at that very same second, the S++ record popped up in the system. Realizing he'd been caught red-handed and that his easy, quiet life had just gone down the drain, our boy looks up. Desperation, man, grants a dark, cursed courage. With a stern face and a threatening gaze, he murmurs a spine-chilling phrase, "I really didn't want to have to resort to this, but I guess you too will have to be." Silenced. The pressure from the management agency is overwhelming, and Joon-hyuk, desperate to protect his secret and that damn Kazak, would need to silence the agents. The assassin doesn't hesitate for a second, decapitating Leader Jung and Chief Lee in a flash. The scene is brutal, and instant guilt washes over him, with the agents' severed heads confronting him about what he's done. Whoa, what a nightmare. Joon-hyuk jumps back to reality, realizing it was just another one of his insane paranoias, an intrusive thought that leaves him completely soaked in sweat. Leader Jung, seeing the guy in a panic, asks if he's okay. Joon-hyuk, quickly covering it up, makes up some excuse about low blood pressure, so no one suspects the real mess in his head. Jung insists the elite team needs someone like Joon-hyuk, but he, sticks to his lie. The guy tries, with a straight face, to convince the agents that his 11th floor completion was just a massive coincidence, that he simply beat the real mysterious player's time. But Jung isn't stupid. He already knows Joon-hyuk's story doesn't match the perfect completion times. Even with Joon-hyuk denying it completely, Jung realizes that pushing him will only drive the guy away. He changes his strategy and asks Lee Min-ah to hand over the contract. But it's not just any contract. It's an ultra-elite special, something that doesn't even exist on the market. Joon-hyuk's eyes widen as he sees an annual salary of 12 billion won, not to mention a luxurious mansion, VIP status, and legal immunity. It's insane money, absurd power, like becoming royalty in Korea. Contract on the table, but Joon-hyuk shocks everyone by returning the folder. He refuses this offer that, for anyone, would be the chance of a lifetime. He explains that he hates drawing attention, that the fame and the burden of being an elite are a colossal weight. He says his heart is weak, that climbing the tower is fun now, at the start, but the future is uncertain. The guy's a pathological introvert, with a genuine fear of the unknown up there. Jung, shocked by the guy's refusal, decides to give in and offers the standard contract, realizing that pushing him would just make Joon-hyuk disappear. In Joon-hyuk's head, even if everyone called him an idiot for refusing so much money and privilege, he knew the truth. An elite contract means carrying the burden of clearing the most dangerous areas of the tower. He'd be a government tool, and that would trap him forever, taking away his freedom. Meanwhile, at the management agency, Director Park Kyung-soo is furious. He confronts Leader Jung, indignant about the report describing a super-shy and unambitious player, when, over the phone, Jung described unprecedented talent. Chief Lee Min-ah confirms the contradiction. The guy's an S++ record holder, but with the mindset of a cowardly civilian. Director Park doesn't give a damn about the guy's personality. What matters is his unprecedented talent, and he orders Jung to recruit Juhyuk at all costs. Turns out, Juhyuk's cowardice and shyness were just an elaborate act to keep Kazak away from everyone's eyes. He knew that to protect the assassin, he needed to appear as harmless as possible. Back in the tower on the 12th floor, the mission is to face 20 ice spear weasels in a frozen desert. Juhyuk, shivering from the cold, reminds Kazak. The plan is to act with delicacy, taking as long as possible, all so as not to raise any more suspicion from the agency. Kazak, as always, obeys the order with the vigor of a loyal servant. But the cold was unbearable, and Juhyuk's teeth chattered from shaking so much. Kazak, seeing his master in such distress, completely forgets the orders to go slow. Worried about a cold, the assassin simply annihilates all the ice weasels in a matter of seconds, turning the mission into a bad joke. Another damn S++ rank, with another platinum emblem, to Juhyuk's despair. Back at home, with the agency calling to confirm the S++ rank on the 12th floor, Juhyuk is furious. He questions Kazak, who approaches with a towel and hot tea, if he thought he'd watch TV after disobeying him like that. The punishment is immediate. He desummons the assassin back into the void, furious with the guy's stubbornness. But Kazak's stubbornness cycle doesn't stop. On the 13th floor, a hallway full of traps. The assassin ignores the master's orders for caution, claiming the path was too dangerous to go slow. He simply grabs Juhyuk in his arms, like a princess, and speeds off at super speed, leaping over everything and securing yet another S++ rank. On the 14th floor, same old story, giant bats with sonic attacks. Kazak, worried about his master's eardrums, massacres everything in a flash, securing another S+ rank. Juhyuk, already looking like he's about to cry and exhausted from fighting the summoned, throws in the towel. The guy, checking his bank statement, nearly faints. In 14 days, he'd earned over 7 million won. Money talks, man. He calculates that by reaching the 20th floor, he'd be earning 1 million won a day. No more shyness, no more pretending to be weak. Juhyuk decides to quit his convenience store job and, finally, unleashes Kazak to clear everything as fast as possible. The agency already suspects him anyway, so screw it. The focus now is to farm money and get stronger. With the master's green light, Kazak, excited, obeys the order. On the 15th floor, they face 20 worker goblins. Juhyuk notices the increase in danger. These are humanoid, intelligent monsters that move in groups. If one escapes, the entire horde will be alerted, making discretion even more crucial. But Kazak is a pro. He tells his master to hide well because he's going to eliminate them all at once. In a flash, the assassin activates his supreme stealth and vanishes into the shadows. Juhyuk watches the invisible slaughter from afar, the goblins falling one by one without even knowing what hit them. Kazak's skill is so broken that, it's almost cheating. In a few minutes, the floor is cleared, and another platinum emblem is added to Juhyuk's collection. Back at the apartment, he eagerly rushes to check his inventory. 15 perfect, gleaming emblems on the screen. He already knows that every 5 emblems, the system gives a reward, and now, with 15, he gulps, super excited to find out what the new privilege will be. The secret reward for 15 platinum emblems finally arrives, an energy barrier kit. Our hero, curious as ever, equips the item. And then the system explains. It's a protective shield that absorbs damage, has a 5-hour cooldown, and its resistance scales with the user's level. That darn Junhyuk realizes that, since the item isn't exclusive to the tower, he can use the super-op barrier in the real world. He thinks about selling the kit for billions of wons and retiring, but greed gets the best of him. He quickly changes his mind, because, hey, if he levels up just a bit more, he could get even better rewards. He turns to Kazak and asks if they could try for an S++ rank on the 11th floor right away. Kazak, being more pragmatic, warns him that clearing the stage is a given, but a direct S++ requires knowing the terrain, something he can't promise. This leaves Junhyuk a bit undecided. Meanwhile, back at the Awakened Management Agency, bald director Park Kyung-gu asks how long it's been since Bong Junhyuk hit a new S+ record. Chief Lee Min-ah confirms, it's been 15 days already. Leader Jian Guangil adds that he must be stuck on the 15th floor, just like many other players. The director, being dramatic, laments the cruel fate of giving so much talent to such a shy and timid kid. But Jung tries to calm him down, reminding him that the difficulty takes a huge leap from the 16th floor and that player Bong hasn't given up yet. Decided to test the energy barrier, Jun Hyuk turns to Kazak and asks the assassin to stab him in the gut. Kazak, completely shocked, panics, thinking his master is crazy or wants to get rid of him in some horrible way. Jun Hyuk tries to explain it's just a practical test. After all, it's not like he's asking to die. But Kazak, in a full-blown nervous breakdown, covers his ears and starts humming, refusing to obey such an absurd order. Right at that moment, Jung's phone rings. He answers, and when he hangs up, his eyes are wide with the news. Bong Joon-hyuk is coming to the agency, wanting to use the official player shop. The director, confused, questions why a coward would go there. But then it clicks for him. Joon-hyuk wasn't stuck, but actually farming the 15th floor repeatedly, gathering money to buy decent equipment. Jung confirms the theory, reminding him that the kid was empty-handed the last time they saw him. Regretful, the director quickly changes his tune and orders them to give all possible support and sell him whatever he wants for pennies. Decided to test the energy barrier, Joon-hyuk turns to Kazak and asks the assassin to stab him in the gut. Kazak, shocked, totally panics, thinking his master is crazy or wants to get rid of him in some horrible way. Joon-hyuk tries to explain that it's just a practical test. After all, it's not like he's asking to die. But Kazak, in a complete nervous collapse, covers his ears and starts humming, refusing to obey such an absurd order. Annoyed with his assassin's cowardice, our hero decides to handle things himself. He stabs the knife into his own abdomen, but oh wait, he forgot to activate the barrier. Bleeding horribly, Joon-hyuk realizes his mistake, while Kazak collapses in despair, screaming that he'd rather cut off his own arm than see his master get hurt again. After chugging a healing potion and closing the wound, Joon-hyuk sits on the ground, with Kazak begging him never to do something so stupid again. After all that chaos, Joon-hyuk agrees not to stab himself anymore and says they can go back to farming. While Kazak goes far off to annihilate the monsters, clearing the floor in about 10 minutes, our boy decides to make the most of his free time. He starts practicing his overpowered skill, Shadow Step. When he activates it, he feels an incredible lightness in his body, realizing this skill will be perfect for escaping any tight spot. As he excitedly zigzagged among the rocks, getting the hang of Shadow Step, Joon-hyuk suddenly slams on the brakes. He comes face to face with a worker goblin that had managed to hide from Kazak's massacre in a bush. The goblin stares him down, and out of nowhere, an unforeseen confrontation pops up. The silence shatters when the furious monster leaps to tear off the protagonist's arm in a single bite. Joon-hyuk, in a panic-driven reflex, activates the energy barrier instantly. The darn goblin's teeth smash against the impenetrable shield without causing any damage whatsoever. Realizing he was unharmed, our hero gets a surge of courage. Taking advantage of the monster being stunned, he lands a precise kick to the goblin's face, knocking out 2 of its teeth with a good whack. Across the field, Kazak, with his super-sharp hearing, catches the sound of the blow. He looks back and sees the scene, quietly praising his master's kick. But the next second, his overprotective instinct screams louder. Realizing his master was technically in danger because he'd gotten his boot dirty, Kazak freaks out and rushes over at light speed to help him. When he arrives, he crushes the goblin and starts scolding Joon-hyuk, asking if he has a screw loose for fighting, even with the kid safe and sound. And so, by training skills and secretly saving up money, Joon-hyuk repeated the 15th floor for 2 weeks. He managed to get a bit more used to the movement, and on top of that, he collected exactly 22.5 kilograms of magic stones, which guarantees over 11 million ones. Back to the present, Joon-hyuk calls Jung and asks if it's okay for him to go to the agency's shop now. Jung says absolutely not a problem, and insists on sending a car to pick him up, claiming it's a privilege protocol for all registered players, which Joon-hyuk, in his innocence, accepts. The car that picks him up is nothing less than a super luxurious limousine, a ride that's definitely not the standard the government sends for casual players. But Joon-hyuk, in his innocence, thinks everything's totally fine. Arriving at the agency, there's Leader Jung waiting for him at the door like a butler. He welcomes him and accompanies him to the entrance, where Jun Hyuk's fingerprint is validated for free access. Jung even offers a tour, but our hero, wanting to avoid interactions, thanks him and says he prefers to look around alone. Stepping into the famous player shop, he's jaw-dropped by the luxury and the shining weapons, finding it weird that the place is completely empty. But he figures it must be because the items are just too expensive. He heads to the counter to sell his loot. The appraiser takes the bags of magic stones and confirms. The market price is exact, 11.25 million wons, and the money would hit his bank account in up to 3 business days. Jun Hyuk, with his eyes gleaming at the shelves, asks if he can use the balance right there as credit, and the clerk, with the biggest smile ever, says absolutely. Meanwhile, in the director's office, Director Park watches the security cameras, and Jung confirms that the shop is empty and that a hidden 90% discount has been applied to every item Jun Hyuk looks at, explaining that the boy is shy and wouldn't accept free items. Nervous and not wanting to stick around too long, Jun Hyuk thinks fast. He'll just buy some defense equipment and get out of there. Back safe in his studio apartment, our boy is all swagger in front of the mirror with his new gear, a sturdy adamantium mace and a pair of basilisk leather boots. But here's the thing, Jun Hyuk isn't dumb. He did his research and knows those boots are worth 20 to 30 million wons, and he bought them for a mere 3 million. Then it starts to click. The luxury limousine, Leader Jung greeting him like a butler, the dirt cheap prices. It's clear the government is giving him super special treatment. This makes him uncomfortable because, after all, there's no such thing as a free lunch. But honestly, the boots are just too cool to refuse. He reflects that with the boot's speed, the invisible energy barrier, and shadow step, he's becoming almost untouchable. Before, he promised not to be greedy, but seeing how fast he's getting strong and rich is an irresistible temptation. For better or worse, he's starting to always want more. The next day, extremely motivated, he summons Kazak again. The assassin appears, bows, and asks with the same insane glint in his eyes if they'll be repeating the 15th floor today. But Jun Hyuk gives a sly smile and announces, playtime's over, they're going to the 16th floor. And best of all, the 30-day cooldown for random summon is finally up. Kazak's eyes widen, super excited by the news, asking if that means they can call another companion for carnage right now. Jun Hyuk then kneels on the floor, clasps his hands, and says a hilarious prayer to every single divine entity he knows, begging for a good summon before slamming the button. The very next instant, an absurd flash lights up the studio apartment, and the system processes the gacha roulette. And what appears isn't a spirit, a monster, much less a normal human. It's a guy, yeah, but with titanic proportions. The dude is so giant that his head smashes through the ceiling of the kid's humble home, opening up a huge hole. Jun Hyuk and Kazak look at each other, terrified by the humanoid monster that just showed up. In the middle of all the chaos and falling debris, the only thing our protagonist can think about is the darn ceiling repair. The portal smoke clears, revealing a colossal figure materializing. Bare feet, muscular legs, giant hands, and a burly, hairy body just appear there. Whoa, Bong Joon-hyuk immediately wonders, is that monstrosity in front of him actually human or some kind of abomination from hell? But Kazak doesn't even let him think and just charges the giant, super pissed off. He lands a flying kick with both feet right on the creature's head, screaming out his hatred. The assassin accuses the big guy of ruining his life in the past and coming back to do it again. The craziest thing is, the giant barely reacts, which just makes Kazak even angrier, beating him senseless. Meanwhile, Bong Joon-hyuk, shocked by the brawl, asks if they know each other. The brute just looks at Kazak and says, in a deep voice, that he feels no pain or even a tickle, making the assassin furious and threatening to stab him. Vendo a destruição eminent em sua casa, Bong Joon-hyuk grita para os dois param. A final, já tínhamos quebrado o tito e isso já era prejuízo demais por dia. Kazak, na hora, guarda a daga e se desculpa como mestre. Bong Joon-hyuk então decide conversar a sós como novo convidado. Mas Kazak tenta avisá-lo, que o cara e acute completo idiota e nem deve conhecer os três princípios do invocador. O gigante pisca devagar e garante que estudo. Quando Kazak manda ele recitar, o barbaro se enrola todo, mostrando que realmente não captua a idea. Kazak facepalms, totally outraged, and insists Bong Joon-hyuk kill the big guy, explaining he can only be summoned again in 100 days. This cruel rule surprises our protagonist, who decides to check the system first. He opens the catalog and there it is. Title of Bull Barbarian, the Great Plains Tribe's Meat Shield with an R-rank rarity. That's the lowest possible rarity. And the guy doesn't even know his own name, what he does, or what the tower is. Bong Joon-hyuk's frustration grows, but he decides that to get any info out of this brute, he needs to activate the detailed description, just like he did with Kazak, and dive into the guy's memories. The vision that appears is of a pure barbarian warrior from the Great Plains tribe who found happiness in nature's simplest things. The guy was innocent, but had absurd physical strength, able to crush fierce wolves just with his bare arms. Like, seriously surreal brute strength. But here's the thing, because of his incredibly slow reasoning, the barbarian was manipulated by wicked people and ended up forgetting even his own name. The memory shows his tragic end. He was tricked by a fake hero in shining armor, this guy named Arius, who used him as a damn meat shield against the archdemon Hydra. The barbarian resisted the Hydra's deadly breath, ripped off the monster's heads with his bare hands, all while his skin was melting from the acid, just to protect those he thought were his comrades. In the end, he dies dissolved, while his supposed allies mocked his sacrifice, calling him an idiot. That's when Bong Joon-hyuk finally understands the meat shield title. Back in reality, Bong Joon-hyuk feels a lump in his throat. He realizes the cowardice of those who used the barbarian, whose only flaw was being a bit slow. Moved by empathy, he smiles and says, "Welcome, we're going to climb the tower together. First step, a new name. Beard or Mad?" The big guy, confused, points to the second option. Mad is better. Bong Joon-hyuk then hugs him, promising to make his dear Mad Bull very happy. And the giant nods, saying he trusts the master and will do everything he's told. Bong Joon-hyuk turns to Kazak and declares that from now on, the three of them are a team. Kazak is shocked at first, but after a quick calculation in his psychopathic mind, he breaks into a sinister smile. Like he realizes Mad Bull could be the best meat shield in the universe, a perfect cannon fodder for the team. Bong Joon-hyuk sighs, trying to focus on the bright side, and decides it's time to head to the 16th floor. Kazak kicks Mad Bull's shin and tells him to answer. But when the giant just nods and repeats, "Yes, sir," the assassin yells at him to stop mimicking. Bong Joon-hyuk watches the two fighting and thinks about the irony: a pathetic coward, a bloodthirsty psycho, and a meat shield who can barely talk. But in the end, he feels like it's all going to work out. The trio finally enters the 16th floor of the Black Tower. The mission this time: eliminate 30 goblin scouts within a 5-hour limit. As they walk, Kazak gives instructions, telling the summoner to activate the energy barrier and be ready to escape with Shadow Step at any moment. After all, goblins use blowguns with poison darts and have perfect camouflage. Attacks could come from anywhere. Sure enough, a goblin hidden in the trees shoots a dart straight at Bong Joon-hyuk. But Kazak, with his superhuman reflexes, steps forward, snatches the poisonous dart out of the air with 2 fingers, and shouts that it's an ambush. Dozens of goblin scouts jump from the trees, furiously advancing on the trio. Bong Joon-hyuk, in his usual mode, runs and hides behind a huge rock. Kazak pulls out his daggers, warning that he'll hold the front line. Meanwhile, Bong Joon-hyuk assesses the battlefield, realizing they were waiting and there are over 50 monsters there. Taking advantage of his new ally, Bong Joon-hyuk points to the battlefield and shouts for Mad Bull to go in and hold the advance. The barbarian warrior, with an unshakable expression, simply says yes. Mad Bull bends his knees and takes a monstrous leap towards the goblin horde. Kazak, who is already slicing through enemies, sees a gigantic shadow covering the ground and finds Mad Bull's legs descending like a meteor from the sky. The giant lands, causing an earthquake that cracks the forest floor. Bong Joon-hyuk watches from afar and is thrilled to see the big guy's physical strength crush dozens of goblins on impact. The surviving goblins fire a rain of poisoned darts at his chest, but Mad Bull doesn't even flinch, crushing their blowguns and saying, annoyed, that it only tickles and Master Bong ordered him to kill them. Watching the barbarian sweep through the horde, Bong Joon-hyuk is perplexed. He wonders if this guy is really just an R rank. If you only consider his brute strength, he should be super rare at least. Come to think of it, the only reason he's considered low rarity is because he's not very smart. Damn system, that's totally messed up. After clearing the 16th floor and heading home, Bong Joon-hyuk decides to congratulate Mad Bull with the best prize ever, an entire box of hot fried chicken. The giant takes his first bite, and his eyes light up with emotion for something so delicious. It's a cute scene until he tries to talk with his mouth full and calls the food Fwango. Kazak, in the corner, turns up his nose, dying of envy, grumbling that the giant is useless and can't even speak properly. Mad Bull grabs another spicy piece and doesn't even care, devouring it anyway. Bong Joon-hyuk, laughing, tries to defuse the situation, asking if they can't get along for once in their lives. To the master's surprise, the giant swallows the chicken, smiles, and says the summoner is a good person and gives him Fwango, so he'll give his life for the summoner. Bong Joon-hyuk is touched by the giant's pure loyalty, smiling and saying that compared to what they do for him, a little chicken is nothing. Actually, he's the one who really needs their help. But the emotional moment doesn't last. Out of nowhere, Kazak flies across the room and lands a two-footed flying kick right on Mad Bull's face, yelling that it's chicken, not FWANGO, you dumb idiot. Bong Joon-hyuk throws his hands up in despair, telling the assassin to stop picking on the poor warrior. The next day, they head for the 17th floor raid. Still in the safe zone, Bong Joon-hyuk notices a big difference in his own body. Now that he's reached level 17, he feels absolute power rushing through his veins, his heart pounding. He clenches his fists and wonders if the warrior beast inside him is awakening, if it's his turn to fight. But Kazak, a few steps ahead, totally kills the epic mood. He warns that monsters around level 20 are the most dangerous, because that's when hunters usually let their guard down. Kazak takes the front line again, and Mad Bull also steps forward, saying he'll protect the master and the master can stay back and rest. Bong Joon-hyuk slumps his shoulders, all his imaginary courage evaporates, and he accepts his fate as dead weight. Ah, okay, fine. The 17th floor mission is dangerous. Eliminate 30 goblin warriors. The difference is, these aren't the weak scouts from before, they're a militarized army. Bong Joon-hyuk, observing the enemy formation, realizes the size of the trouble. Like, he remembers when he read the tower guide, it seemed easier, but seeing 90 monsters armed to the teeth in person is super intimidating. He remembers the advice from online guides. The standard strategy recommended retreating to the safe zone and waiting a few hours. After a while, their formation would disperse, and they'd patrol in small groups of 3. You were supposed to lure and kill small groups one by one until you cleared the floor. But Bong Joon-hyuk looks at the giant beside him and gives a daring smile. That would be the strategy for normal players, but they're not normal, and that takes too long. He points to the entire horde and shouts, "Mad Bull, go all out on them." Mad Bull puffs out his chest, activates his immense power, and lets out a deafening war roar that shakes the floor's structure, charging like a runaway train against the goblins. Bong Joon-hyuk watches from afar, cheering and already counting it as a victory. As the massacre unfolds, he leans on a rock, relaxes, and thinks that if they clear this fast, he'll get another S++ rank. And what kind of secret reward will the system give him when he finally collects 20 platinum emblems? Whoa, Meatball just bursts onto the 17th floor, charging straight into the goblin warrior horde. The monsters try to organize, like setting up a barrier of spears and shields, hoping to stop the beast. But man, our big guy isn't playing around. He just uses his shoulder like a battering ram, totally ignoring any enemy tactics. Meatball just obliterates the goblin defense, plowing forward like a runaway, brakeless tractor. Bong Joon-hyuk watches the chaos from afar and gets super hyped. He realizes that when the power imbalance is this absurd, fancy strategies are worthless. It's like 1,000 bicycles trying to stop a tank. The giant's performance is surreal and terrifyingly effective. And with all that mess, the 17th floor mission is completed with a resounding success. S++ for sure, and another platinum emblem for our protagonist's collection. Joon-hyuk is there, celebrating how easy it was. But Kazak, man, he watches everything with a sideways glance, looking more and more worried about his summoner's path. You can just smell trouble in the air, right? Without wasting any time, they head straight to the 18th floor, where the mission is to dispatch 30 goblin assassins. Right off the bat, Bong sends Meatball after the monsters again to break their formation, just like on the previous floor. But check it out, things change quickly. The problem is these goblins are masters of stealth, and Meatball, with all his muscle mass and zero subtlety, even senses their presence at first, but loses sight of them in the blink of an eye. He gets confused, like a bulldog trying to catch a squirrel. Bong Joon-hyuk realizes right away, this floor won't be as easy as he thought. The giant, frustrated, grumbles as he tries to hunt down where those cowardly vermin hid. And that's when Kazak flashes a sly smile. He was just waiting for a chance to show what he could do after Meatball stole the show on the previous floor with his dumb and ignorant strategy. Now, he's gonna clear his name and show the summoner what a real elite tactic looks like. Those goblins' stealth? PFF, it's not even close to his. He activates his own stealth abilities and enters the cat-and-mouse game. Bong realizes that having the two compete like this is working perfectly, stimulating a healthy competitive spirit between the summons, or maybe not so healthy. Either way, he decides he needs to keep improving his own advantages. After all, he's almost level 18 and feels his wilder side, repressed for so long, is finally begging to be unleashed. He studied the strategies a lot before entering this floor, especially the low-level stealth of the goblin assassins. Bong is sure that if he concentrates well, he can predict the goblin's movements. He thinks to himself that he has nothing to fear. After all, he practiced the shadow step until he dropped while farming the 15th floor. His confidence, man, is through the roof. He feels totally prepared for direct combat, ready to show that it's not just the summons who can kick butt. Carried away by this false confidence, the guy charges a goblin assassin. But obviously, his training was garbage, and he messes up the move grotesquely, giving away his position on a silver platter. To make matters worse, he even loses his balance and trips like a fat duck. But by pure luck, while trying to steady himself, he raises his weapon and hits, get this, hits the monster right in the head. A goblin assassin downed. Our boy celebrates like a genius, saying everything went exactly as planned, with a million air quotes, of course. Either way, he'd done his part, and the darn goblin was down. No sooner does he finish bragging than another goblin assassin appears out of nowhere, dropping right on top of him, ready to finish the job his buddy couldn't. Whoa, Bong Joon-hyuk barely had time to breathe before he was in trouble again. The hunt wasn't over, and now, the hunter became the hunted. Meanwhile, up ahead, Kazak was having a blast, slicing through the goblin horde. Reaching kill number 27, he realizes only 3 were left. Meatball, still unable to find anyone, out of sheer rage starts punching every possible corner and by pure luck crushes the remaining 3. The giant shouts that he wants to help more, but Kazak tells him to get out of the way because he's just being a nuisance. That's when the rascal realizes, wait, where's Summoner Bong? Oh boy, the drama begins. While the 2 summons were bickering for nothing, our boy was fighting for his life. The goblin's surprise attack is blocked at the last second by his energy barrier. He gulps, realizing things would have gotten very, very ugly without that shield. His head, man, would have been split open. The danger was real, and his luck immense. But suddenly, an insane rush of adrenaline takes over Bong's body. The goblin's blade movement seemed to slow down in his eyes. It's a bizarre feeling, like time around him slowed down just for him. The guy manages to dodge and land hits as if the monsters had a target drawn on their foreheads. Everything becomes way too easy. And with that, he secures another absolute success. Rank S++ on the 18th floor of the tower, and another platinum emblem received. Kazak rushes desperately towards his master and is shocked when Joon-hyuk, all proud, announces he landed the final blow on that goblin. Instead of being happy, the assassin drops to his knees and starts crying in disgust, terrified by the risk the summoner took. Back in the real world, at the management office, another worldwide announcement echoes through the agency's system. The 18th floor has been cleared with rank S++. Director Park Kyung-soo is just buzzing with joy, man. He says the kid is unstoppable and was definitely preparing meticulously over the last few weeks for this floor-jumping spree. Excited, the director even jokes about revealing his identity to the media right now and shouting that the S++ record holder is his employee. Leader Jung nearly has a heart attack and begs the boss not to say that, not even as a joke. Chief Lee agrees, warning that it would be extremely dangerous if his identity leaked. The director laughs, says it was just a joke, but confesses he's super proud of the kid. Jung concludes by saying that Bong Joon-hyuk has become a special player, who should be treated with even more care than elite teams. That day, it was all over TV. Newspapers announced that new winds were blowing in Korea. After a 20-day hiatus, the incredible milestone of 18 consecutive S++ rank clearances happened, an unprecedented record that was rewriting the tower's history. Anchors estimated the mysterious player was already on level 19, and not just the hunter community, but the entire nation wanted to know who he was. Watching all this in the studio apartment, Kazak simply turns off the TV, letting out a long sigh of worry and disgust. Bong Joon-hyuk, already nervous about the heavy atmosphere, asks him to stop sighing and just say what he's thinking. Kazak stares at him and says in a gloomy tone that his master man is too fast. Bong blinks, confused, not understanding. What do you mean too fast? Kazak explains that the speed at which he's awakening his combat talent is, terrifyingly fast. Our protagonist lets out a nervous, disbelieving laugh. Talent? Who are you talking about? It's definitely not me. You must be kidding, I don't have any talent at all. But Kazak was dead serious, man. He warns that the shadow step Joon-hyuk executed at the end of the fight was so perfect that even he himself would have trouble imitating it. And that's exactly what makes everything more dangerous, because Kazak lays it out. Don't be fooled, summoner. You'll start finding combat fun, you'll gain confidence, and the danger grows in direct proportion. A hunter who gets too brave becomes an easy target for monsters. He reminds the kid of the promise they made at the very beginning. Safety first, survival above all else. Bong nods affirmatively, saying he remembers that he would never do anything dangerous and that he'll follow the plan to the letter. But Kazak keeps staring at him, with a terrible premonition that his summoner is still going to pull off something big, and that his life protecting him is going to get a lot harder. Summoning Meatball and Kazak in Bong Joon-hyuk's apartment quickly turns into total chaos. The brute starts provoking the assassin, calling him a crybaby. And Kazak definitely doesn't forgive, does he? Rage takes over him, and he lunges at Meatball with a huge kick, showing his sadness turned into pure fury in seconds. The brawl explodes, and Joon-hyuk's apartment goes with it, furniture getting wrecked. Whoa, but the real last straw is when those two jerks hit the fridge, which he just bought with his tower earnings. Joon-hyuk freaks out, begging them to stop, and in a blink, he unsummons them before the rest of the place turns to dust. After that awkward silence, Joon-hyuk can only stare at the stew his mom lovingly made, now spilled all over the floor, and feels the weight of that day. To escape the mess and catch a break, Bong Joon-hyuk decides the next day it's time to visit his parents. He knows he needs a breather from his summoner life. He barely opens the door and runs right into his dad, who doesn't miss a chance to tease him, saying he hardly ever visits. His mom, bless her heart, comes in and immediately defends her son, saying he's too busy. Joon-hyuk asks his dad how his hip is, and the old man, in his usual way, jokes that old people's bones don't mend fast. As his mom heads back to the kitchen to make him another stew, she mentions that Min-hyuk, the youngest, went out to buy tofu. During dinner, Joon-hyuk tries to subtly check things, asking if things are tough, thinking about his mom's layoff and his dad's bills. But his mom, just smiles and tells him not to worry, she'll figure it out. Joon-hyuk then drops a hint it'd be great if I became an awakened hunter, right? And whoa, his dad slaps the table, laughing so hard, mocking that his son is as timid as he is. Min-hyuk, his younger brother, who just arrived, laughs along, and his mom, annoyed by the three of them being so cowardly, asks if they're proud of it. But his mom, who's no fool, quickly changes the subject, asking why he wasn't working that day. Joon-hyuk, sweating cold, tries to play it cool, stammering that it was his day off after all, he'd quit everything. His mom narrows her eyes, sensing the lie, but with that motherly love, she decides to trust him but makes a serious demand. He must never ever get involved with loan sharks. And Joon-hyuk almost chokes on his food, remembering he'd already messed up that way in the past. Quickly, he tries to change the subject, asking about her layoff. Whoa, his mom's face instantly drops as she explains she was fired for cussing out some rich lady who treated her like a servant. Joon-hyuk smirks, proud of his mom, who's always been strong-willed and doesn't take crap from anyone. His dad, meanwhile, raises his mug, bragging that his greatest achievement in life was having the guts to ask her out. Bong Joo-hyuk mentally concludes that he and his brother are living proof of their dad's beta male gene, and that the secret about the tower is best kept for now. At the end of the day, Joo-hyuk says goodbye to his family, and before leaving, hands a fat envelope to Min-hyuk, asking him to give the money to their parents and make sure they don't overwork themselves this month. He knows his family needs some help. His brother holds the money and turns all red, making Joo-hyuk think he's embarrassed to thank him for paying his college tuition. Bong Joo-hyuk, all generous, tells the kid to chill, but Min-hyuk looks up and drops the truth. He wanted his share of the money too. Joo-hyuk rolls his eyes, realizing his brother's a freeloader, but since money isn't an issue now, he gives another stack of bills to his brother, warning him not to waste it. After leaving his family, Joo-hyuk feels his desire to do things right and get rich just intensified. He decides to stop by the Awakened Management Department store, remembering Leader Jung's warning to always call first. But with the energy barrier activated, he feels safe and goes anyway, knowing he needs some serious defense for floors above 20. He heads straight to the defense section, picks a giant shield, but the attendant immediately drops the price, 100 million won. Whoa, Joo-hyuk's eyes widen, thinking it's outrageous. The smart attendant shows him an adamantium shield and club combo, lighter and way more affordable. Joo-hyuk tries it, thinks it's perfect and stylish, and decides to take it for 40 million. He's shaking at the price, but buys it, thinking interacting with the attendant is 100 times more stressful than facing a goblin horde. But the piece doesn't last long. Leaving the store, a guy stops him, introducing himself as Choi Ho-sung, a hunter. He asks Joo-hyuk if he's a rookie and what floor he's on. Joo-hyuk, wanting to be discreet, says he's on the 10th floor, while Choi, all excited, reveals he's already on the 30th. Choi Ho-sung offers to give Joo-hyuk any tips he might need, seeming like the most helpful guy in the world. Bong Joo-hyuk thinks he's the typical popular, extroverted type, but refuses the help, saying it's not hard yet. As Choi leaves, Joo-hyuk, with a tiny bit of envy, concludes that with so much confidence, the guy definitely must have a pretty girlfriend. Back at his apartment that night, Joo-hyuk checks his status and sees he's finally reached level 19. Excitement kicks in right away. He can challenge the 19th floor the next day and finally test out his new shield. As the two laugh about the brute's fate, Kazak suddenly stops, sniffing the air with a serious expression. Joo-hyuk, all happy, offers him some meat buns he just bought. But the assassin, face full of instinct, asks if the master holds a grudge against anyone, a question that confuses Joo-hyuk, who claims to be the most peaceful guy in town. But Kazak isn't distracted. He draws his daggers and whispers that someone's outside, oozing pure murderous intent towards the master. Joo-hyuk freezes instantly. A second later, there's a knock on the door, and a familiar, overly friendly voice asks if anyone's home. Joo-hyuk, being smart, tells Kazak to hide in the bathroom right away. But before he could even move, a violent shot blows up the doorknob, and the door is kicked in forcefully. The intruder walks in, and whoa, it's that Choi Ho-sung guy, his nice guy mask completely dropped, pointing a pistol straight at our protagonist's forehead. The jerk sneers, saying Joo-hyuk is just a naive loser, too easy to follow. Joo-hyuk, trembling, asks why he's attacking, but Choi cuts him off, hitting his forehead with the gun barrel and demanding the energy barrier bracelet, threatening to shoot. Joo-hyuk takes a deep breath, and the scene takes on a new weight. His fear vanishes, replaced by a cold expression of pity. He thinks poor Choi has no idea that by pointing that gun, he's actually committing suicide, while Kazak's silver blades gleam in the dark bathroom, mere inches from the villain.